Germany and the EU are slashing their social safety nets in order to fund their proxy war against Russia. Imagine decreasing the quality of life for your own citizens simply to stick it to Russia. Take that, Putin. So let me get this straight. Germany elected a prime minister directly from Blackrock, and the first thing that he does is destroy the social safety net in order to fund Germany's military-industrial complex and turn it into a militarized state. Yeah, Europe is completely cooked, man. European neocons for years say that it will be Russia that is paying the cost of this war. Meanwhile, Russia's economy is going strong, while the European quality of life is in free fall. European neocons are demanding the European working class to sacrifice their quality of life so they can wage never-ending war against Russia. This should infuriate the entirety of the left in Europe. But no, the European Green parties and the European Social Democrats have zero criticism of this. In fact, they are supportive of NATO and funding this proxy war. Bernie Sanders, Ro Khanna, AOC, the entirety of the NATO left is on board with this. Unlike these sellouts, a true leftist calls for peace and cooperation unapologetically with Russia and China for the betterment of the entirety of the global working class.
What's poppin'? What's poppin', my friends, my family? We are back again. The streak continues. Welcome to Nick at Prime Time. I have my friend Sarah from DDG, amazing geopolitical analyst and writer. A lot of great banger articles from my friend Sarah. A lot to discuss. Always great to have you on. Sarah from DDG. What's poppin', my friend?
Hello. Hi, everyone. What a good weekend.
Yeah, we're going to cover a few of your articles. You guys know my friend Sarah, she's always in the lab cooking. We're always in the lab cooking. I want to cover this first because I think the contrast is amazing where you have the global majority coming together. We're seeing we see Russia, China, Iran. We even see the DPRK sending a giant shiver down the spine of the West. They're calling them the new axis of evil. Meanwhile, this quote-unquote axis of evil that everyone in the West is talking about, they're having discussions about increasing the life expectancy rate to 150 years. This is what the people in the West view as extremely evil. Look, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he and Xi Jinping discussed the prospect of extending human life expectancy to 150 years. Compare that to Germany in the West that is openly cutting and slashing their quality of life so they can wage war against the country that's trying to increase life expectancy. What's poppin', Sarah? Any reactions to this story and Mark Rutte in Europe essentially destroying their society, deindustrializing themselves, following the direction of the United States?
Wasn't that incredible? I think he said earlier this week, like he would be cutting social safety nets and programs so they could spend 5% of their GDP on U.S. weapons. It's like all circus and no bread. Like it's so, we talk about this often, the blatancy of it. It's becoming so blatant that they're just like, we're not even going to give you any foreplay. We're going to straight up tell you we're taking away your social safety net so we can go to war with Russia, which you don't want.
Just suck on it, Putin.
Yeah. And Putin, I mean, I translated most of his press conference today. It's in my pinned post if you guys want to check it out. And he's just not even entertained by these people.
I was considering covering that. I see we have time to cover the Putin press conference. There's a lot to get to. That's why I'm already starting off strong covering this because we still got to cover the Epstein press conference that has Donald Trump in complete shambles. There's the EU that's also blocking sanctions against the genocidal state of Israel. So you have Germany who elected a Blackrock executive. Like we covered this when he was elected. and liberals pretend this was a great thing. What's popping, my brother Nico? Big shout out to my hotspot brother Nico House. But Germany elected a Blackrock CEO. Like, we have a Rothschild banker as the president of France. Now you got Blackrock controlling Germany. Europe is completely cooked. So as they're electing capitalists and getting rid of the middleman, they're advocating for cutting social spending while spending more on the military-industrial complex, which directly benefits BlackRock and the institution these people come from. The capitalist class is getting directly rid of the middleman. So as Germany in Europe descends directly into fascism and supported genocide, you want to know what the West is saying about the meeting between Russia and Xi Jinping? Look.
Well, I was hoping that they would call them that, so that's good.
Sarah, you knew I was looking for this. You knew I was gonna find and sniff these people out. It's so absurd. I've been having a great time.
I love the subtitle. Does MAGA want a multipolar world or not? They don't have a fucking choice.
Why are they always making them about MAGA? That's the annoying part.
We got to worry about their feelings all the time.
Why are they making it about MAGA? Like, as far as I'm concerned, it's been the anti-imperialist left that have been cheering. Like the MAGA people, they've been like the bandwagoners on cheering the multipolar world. But you got to see the liberal class make everything about MAGA. The same way they made everything regarding this summit about Trump. They said this is Donald Trump's fault. This is Modi sticking it to Trump. This is Putin. No, this has been a long time coming because United States unhinged policies that push India and China closer together. They're unhinged policies in waging a sanctions regime that sanctions 1/3 of the world population. This is what brought Russia and China together, which led many African countries to pursue this quote-unquote axis of evil. Do you guys see how crazy these motherfuckers are? This is what they really believe. They call Xi Jinping in China a country that's committing no genocides, invading no countries, bombing nobody. They're the evil ones. And this is the CNN headline. Xi, Putin, and Kim put on defiant display.
Just by hanging out, they're being defiant.
Xi Jinping and Putin calling for world peace. How dare they?
All of their speeches, I didn't get to Kim's, but everybody's statements that I heard and read all said the same thing, that they wanted peace.
This is why the corporate media, they will never actually share what these people say. Like, I'm going to get back to the Putin 150 years, because whenever you hear Xi Jinping speak, the difference between him and a Western leader is as vast as the oceans. Like, as Trump is talking about bombing Venezuelans, bombing random boats, as he's talking about killing Arabs, as they always talk about who they want to dominate, who's their enemy. Xi Jinping gives speeches talking about what he's going to build, the infrastructure projects that they have planned, the amount of people they're uplifting out of poverty. The difference in what they speak about is extremely transparent. But Sarah, do you want to chime in? I thought you want to chime in.
It's just like, it's like gaslighting on meth. It's like, they're the axis of evil. We're going to bomb a boat in the middle of the ocean. They're the axis of evil. We are going to sell more weapons to Israel. They don't want peace. They want war. We're going to block all sanctions against Israel and keep sending weapons to Ukraine. It's like and like MAGA just eats it up. Like, even if you listen to them speaking, they're like, he has ended 7 wars. And I'm like, yeah, 4 of them we didn't even know about. It is like, what are we doing here? And they really do eat it up. I think that at this point they're lying to themselves to kind of force an ignorance is bliss type thing.
Yeah, they don't buy their bullshit. The Democratic Party and Republican Party, they are in a nonstop race to the bottom. They know no one really buys their bullshit, but it's all about disenfranchising the American voter. What are we going to do? Vote for Pete Buttigieg, Sarah? What are our options? They don't care. They know
Gavin Newsom and JD Vance.
They're about to be running on who going to crack down on free speech the most. Who's going to
who's going to be more authoritarian? That'll be the next thing.
I can show you guys these clips all day. I don't want to bore my friend Sarah here, but this small clip in particular. You guys see, I was watching live, just analyzing the pure meltdown and how they try and describe this to the liberal audience. I explained this at our last live stream and making this all about Trump. Just summing up like Caitlin Collins, this whole thing, pretending that Biden had the global world order under his thumb. Like she pretending like Biden was killing the game, as if this shit wasn't happening under him. So that's how Democrats are spinning. But go ahead, Sarah. I think you want
exactly. No, I was just buttressing up your point. Exactly that. Then both sides do this stupid nonsense. Well, if I was in office, then this war wouldn't even be happening. Oh, well, if Biden was in office, we wouldn't have the multipolar world being born. Like, this is retarded. Like, they're so inconsequential. They're becoming so politically irrelevant, the United States holistically, that it's just like your opinion is comedy.
Listen to this look at this comedy in pure cope.
There is no doubt that Vladimir Putin is a malevolent force in the world. Kim Jong-un is running a criminal enterprise disguised as a nation, and both of them are being supported by China. That's
so North Korea.
What crime is Kim involved in?
Do you guys see the deranged ideology of the average American neocon? This isn't even
like a Kim standing moment. Like, genuinely asking, what criminal enterprise or crime ring is Kim involved in? I mean, we've got you guys covered. Maduro, which I'm sure we'll talk about more later, but he's the drug lord. What is Kim up to? Is he weapon smuggling? Is he starving? Like, what are we doing here? What is? And then and they exactly just making shit up. And the Putin is a malevolent force.
Yeah.
Dear God. All right, then get rid of him. Get rid of him and see what happens next.
It's extremely triggering, isn't it, Sarah? We can't make it even a few seconds into these clips, but you guys see what they pump into the average American. Why I said it years ago that Americans are by far the most propagandized country in the world. Not even close. I mean, a lot of people like to make the argument about Israel, but at least like our propaganda managed to convince Americans to serve Israelis. I mean, at least Israelis are advocating for their own interests. Like, the United States support these crazy batshit assholes, and they convince themselves into hating North Korea, a country that did nothing to them. Like, North Korea only, like, the approval rating, the amount Americans have a seething hatred, like 30% of Americans polled as of 2020 said they believe the United States should just nuke North Korea. like the amount of, so we laugh at this propaganda, and some people are like, Nick, come on, we all see through this nonsense. Do we though?
No.
Do Americans though? They don't. Because whenever I go on my North Korea rants, I know you see them, Sarah. Whenever I go on my North Korea spills on Twitter, there are always these Americans who are dumbfounded. Like, there'll be like progressives, there'll be DSA leftists like, Nick, how can you possibly praise North Korea? Don't you know they're a criminal narco state?
I'm like,
they repeat the same shit from corporate media they hear. But go ahead, Sarah.
The drugs pouring out of North Korea. Yeah, that's the ticket.
They are a criminal enterprise. Why? Because they didn't allow the United States to dictate the future of their country. That's the crime that they committed that white America would never forgive them for. They are saying that's a crime. He's not getting fact checked by Caitlin Collins. She's nodding her head too. Let's play it again. It's unbelievable the shit they say.
Concerned. There is no doubt that Vladimir Putin is a malevolent force in the world. Kim Jong-un is running a criminal enterprise disguised as a nation, and both of them are being.
So I said it all the time. I'm mad that they jacked my talking points. Because I said the United States is an arm manufacturer masquerading as a state. It's like
I want to give a book recommendation since it made me think of it, and this is probably the only like decent book in the West that you can get on the Korean War. Patriots, Traitors, and Empires. It's by Stephen Gowans, and it's really, really good, and it will tell you exactly what the United States did to both Koreas, both Koreas. And it actually gives a lot of insight as to why both behave the way they do today, especially given the recent changes in South Korea. I mean, you even had a post recently that was like, South Korea is a capitalist dystopian hell. We need to save those people. And that's absolutely right. But
people have no idea how bad it is.
It's bad.
Like, they have these things. Hopefully I'm saying it right. You guys know my pronunciation is horrible, but I think they call it Chernobyls. Like, the capitalist system in South Korea is so deranged that certain capitalist families amass so much wealth and power that they are effectively above the law. Someone who knows this shit more than me, let me know if I'm saying that right. Someone type in there. I think they call it Chernobyls. Am I saying that correct? That's the term they use to describe these families, like the Hyundai family, like the family who controls Hyundai. They are more powerful than any fucking king or queen that walks in society. They have these bullshit they have presidents in South Korea. They have these bullshit senators and politicians. Motherfucker, they have no power.
Yeah, they don't.
You think these people that actually show up at the press conferences in South Korea are calling the shots? Here it is, Chernobyls. Am I saying that right, Ashura? You guys know I can't fucking talk, but I read about it, and it's one of the terms. Like, look, dig into South Korea. I gotta do a South Korea power hour. I talked about this before. People have no idea how crazy their society is. There's a reason why they have a suicide crisis. There's a reason why there are a ton of South Koreans who flee to North Korea, and then they get caught and they get sent to decades in prison. And there was a person who was just caught a few months ago.
He wants to go back. He wants to go back. They won't send
He was like,
him
bro,
back.
I don't want to live in this bullshit. This is a capitalist dystopian hello. There's an entire Go ahead, Sarah.
They still have decent social welfare systems in South Korea. They still have healthcare. They still have all of that good stuff. And it's still a capitalist dystopian hellhole because of what they do to those people.
Yeah, they essentially have no real tangible worker rights. Unions have been dismantled. Their workers are worked to death and they're essentially stuck in dead-end jobs with no future. They are beholden, and they're victims of the Chernobyls that we were talking about. These giant capitalist conglomerates that control the entirety of the economic system in South Korea. Like Hyundai, they run shit, bro. Like, you guys have no idea. What there's another company I'm blanking on too. What's I'm blanking on. I don't know why. There's Hyundai is not even the biggest one. Was it Samsung? Am I getting that wrong?
Samsung, Kia, they all
yeah, there's another company. I'm blanking on it.
No, Samsung is Korean. Yeah, Korean. So is Hyundai.
Yeah, it's Hyundai, Samsung. I'm pretty sure I'm right. Yeah, Samsung is even bigger than Hyundai. Like, they can get away with murder. Kia is big, but Hyundai, I think, is a little bit bigger.
LG out there. Yep. SK.
I don't want to get into this whole rant, but there was an accident that murdered all these Korean children because capitalists cut corners building this ship and this cruise. And essentially, they got away with it because it would have implicated one of the heads of one of the most powerful families in South Korea. So, despite being responsible for the murder of countless Korean children, they got off scot-free, essentially because the state ruled them as being too important to society to be prosecuted. So there are people like, everything they tell you about North Korea is true about South Korea. They say in North Korea there's no freedom of speech. Bro, there are motherfuckers in prison in South Korea for decades.
They don't even have time to talk in South Korea. The motherfuckers working 60 to 80 hours a week. When do they have time to talk?
Yeah, they get sent to prison for saying nice things about North Korea. Like, if you tell the truth about what happened in the Korean War, like I do all the time, like I explain how the United States invaded and destroyed the sovereignty of the Korean people by getting involved in the war right when North Korea was about to win. Like, they had the South Korean capital surrounded, and then that's when the Americans came in. They changed the tide of the war. There are people who are imprisoned in South Korea for simply mentioning this fact that South Korea wouldn't exist without American interference. That's a punishable offense by prison time. You're not allowed to deviate from the narrative that comes from the West on the Korean War. Like, people have no idea how fucked freedom of speech is in South Korea, the way of life, but they present North Korea as the evil actor. But all right, let's get back to this video. And you guys see the crazy shit that just made. We only made like a few seconds into this. Let's continue.
No doubt that Vladimir Putin is a malevolent force in the world. Kim Jong-un is running a criminal enterprise disguised as a nation, and both of them are being supported by China. That's unfortunate from a U.S. perspective. What we ought to do about it, Caitlin, back to India, we ought to do everything we can to kind of pull India, the world's largest democracy, back toward the West and allowing them to drift into the orbit of Putin and Xi. Enormous diplomatic mistake.
You guys see the coat that felt as calm as
that
you're
ship
gonna
has
see.
sailed. I don't know what kind of boats Indians use. Dinghies. Those ships have sailed. That is gone. The thing with India is a lost cause. They saw what happened with the war. They saw the lies. They hated it, and then they did the oil secondary sanctions. The India thing is gone. Even speaking to Indians, they are done. There were temples dedicated to Trump in India. I'm not kidding. People were praying to Trump. Now they are burning his effigy in the streets. These people want nothing to do with him. They see it as a huge betrayal. They see it as all this lying. They're done. The ship with India has sailed.
Yeah, I did a roast of Fahid Zakaria on my live stream on Monday, where he did a segment where he was having a meltdown over India preferring China over the United States. India being trying. He was so sad. He like, you guys have no idea the permanent damage that has been done. There's a lot of these Hindu Zionists who love America, despite the crimes of the British Empire, what they committed against their people. They want to be attached to the West. They want to be attached to Israel. Even those people are like, man, fuck this Trump shit now, bro.
They are, and I'm actually kind of shocked because, Indians as a whole, holistically speaking as a group, are the first to correct you. I'm not Indian, I'm American. And this has sort of created a conflict, an internal sort of confliction about, they're still loyal to India. They still protect it. They don't want bad things to happen to India. And this is just more of that. And I'm not glad for them, but I'm glad that they're seeing it as clearer than I thought that they would. I thought that they would be, it's fine. But yeah, I'm surprised. And Modi, this weekend with Modi, Xi, and Putin it's a big deal. The SCO is a very big deal.
Yeah, we got to keep our eye on Modi. I obviously still very sus about this guy, but he's been buying Russian oil. Like, he's been facing a lot of pressure from the West. We just got to keep I hope they understand how important this moment is in terms of breaking from United States domination, how quickly the United States will show itself as not caring about Indian interests at all. You guys, I'm still a little bit iffy on Modi, but India has done the right things. There's a reason why Trump and the United States and the West have been very frustrated with India. And they know that Russia and China is already cooked, but you can see in this guy's voice. And this is the common theme if you listen to these military neocon propagandists. They will say, oh, yeah, we already know China's laws, but losing India, that's really what hurts.
It's because India has a foreign policy of trying to be as friendly as with as many nations as possible. And it's not in like a schemy, backdoor, greasy palmed kind of way. It's genuine. We want to be friends and in business with as many people and as many countries as possible. And you've pissed them off enough that they turn to China entirely and away from you totally. So that's actually a big accomplishment for Trump. W for Trump. Well, W for multipolarity, I guess.
Yeah, but you got to see why I wanted to cover both these stories, because the contrast couldn't be even more clear. As they call China, Russia, North Korea the axis of evil, we have the other side that can't even come to an agreement with sanctioning a country that's committing a genocide. And now Israel is now just openly saying we're about to annex the West Bank. But before I get to that, we got a banger stream for you guys. You guys know we got our friends at Midwestern Marks. Our friend Eddie Liger joined us today. I want to get stuff on this. We had Eddie was streaming.
I must have manifested it because I sent you the Marxism tweet and I was like, Nick might like this clip, and then all of a sudden they're like, Midwestern Marx is coming in. So I think that the G clip manifested him, and we didn't even play it yet. So that's great. We can get Eddie.
We gotta get to it. You know, Sarah, you know how our streams are. It's kind of chaotic. We all over the place, but we gotta get to it. We have a banger. Look who's crashing the stream, man. What's popping, Eddie from Midwestern Mark? How you doing, brother?
Good. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Yeah, apparently you were streaming. We streamed at the same time. You decided to join us, and I love it, man. This is great. We will cover. I don't know what you cover. I'm sure you was on the same kind of theme. This is the big story, geopolitically. I want to get your thoughts on this because I know you had to be following this, Eddie. This is what the West is melting down about, calling it the axis of evil. I showed a CNN clip where this neocon fuck was describing North Korea as a criminal terrorist state masquerading as a country. What's any reactions to the Western response to this media? What is your take on this before I move on, Eddie?
I mean, it's just so interesting to see them melting down. I mean, none of it's a surprise. You know, we know, especially as Marxists and Marxist-Leninists, we understand how the world imperialist system works, right? It's not quite as simple as just good guys and bad guys, but, you know, in a way it can be broken down to that. You know, you have the countries resisting the big banks, the IMF, the World Bank, these Western governments who are complete puppets of corporations and finance capital. And then you have the countries who aren't. And those countries are forming closer relations. They're drawing more countries into their sphere of influence, and the U.S. can't help but melt down about it because they have to maintain the dominance of finance capital globally in order to survive. And, you know, they know that this is an existential threat for them.
On one side, we have an axis led by BlackRock and real estate developers, landlords, Rothschild bankers. On the other side, you have governments that are supported by their people at an 80% clip. Talking about the Russia and Chinese government. We have the global majority that is sanctioned by the West. 1/3 of the world population sanctioned by the West. That is rising up against a system of imperialism that crushed them. Meanwhile, there are social democrats and liberals that are confused on what side that we should be taking. Don't you know that Russia and China are secretly authoritarian as well, and we should oppose them? That nonsense I'm glad that people see through on Midwestern Marks, and why I try to get more of our Trotskyist, anarchist friends to see through as well. Sarah, anything else you want to add? I want to dive more into the contrast. We're also going to get to some Israel issues as well. This is what I'm transitioning to. Because Sarah, you got a great article about Gaza. I will get to that here very soon. But before I move on, Sarah, you have anything you want to add? I will get to you one more time. All right, let's move on. So I already explained this. I'm kind of showing this to Eddie again. This is who Germany elected for their prime minister, directly from BlackRock. So what's the first thing he fucking does? The first fucking thing he does is cut social spending. I'll show you guys the headline. Here's another one. The German welfare state can no longer be financed. You know why they're no longer financing this quote unquote welfare state? It's because they spend their time waging war against Russia. So the message from the BlackRock prime minister is that you guys must make sacrifices so we can wage our never-ending war against Russia. So we can continue to send arms and munitions to the state of Israel, because as they call China and Russia the axis of evil, it is Friedrich Merz and their BlackRock-controlled government that is blocking EU sanctions on Israel. And now they're saying the European countries are divided on Israel. Like, what the fuck you mean you're divided on Israel? So what actions? Choose your side. What side are you on? Are you on the side who's been condemning Israel on the global stage? Are you on the side of China, who reaffirmed Palestinians' right to armed resistance multiple times on the UN? I think it's gonna look. NATO chief Root says Europe's social spending must be gutted to pay for war. And now you have this. This is something else I want to share before I
oh, please. What red line?
Sarah, I know you got a lot of thoughts on this. I'll read the headline. I won't get your thoughts.
What red line?
Look,
Somewhere in Dubai? Like, what are we talking about? What are these people talking? What red line? With what army? With what are you going to do? You're going to send Eric Prince?
well said, Sarah. I can't wait to get both of you guys' thoughts on this.
What's next? The Saudis are upset? Oh, no.
There's no one has been discredited more over the last 2 years than these Arab sellout leaders and countries. So there's no red line at the genocide of the Palestinian people. No red lines at hospitals being bombed.
Nah, this is it. The annexation of West Bank is the red line. That's it.
Which
I read a headline
every day. I mean, settlers are already, seizing land in the West Bank every day. It's a slow process where these people are being expelled from their homes, and it's not a process that ever stopped. These Arab leaders are so pathetic. They're nothing but puppets of, like I said, that international finance capital. Even like the reformist trends in Iran, the trends in Iran that are less harsh against the Zionists. It's just because they're selling out, because a lot of their gold is tied up because of Western sanctions. And they want to be able to sell out and enrich themselves at the expense of the Palestinian people and of their own people. And then when it comes to the European countries, doing the same thing, like finger wagging at Israel, like, you guys better stop. There's no teeth behind it. And now it's interesting to see that, European social democracy is being rolled back because of imperialism. No, we can't fund, these nice little welfare programs. We got to fund the Israeli death machine. And that's why we've always, called out social democracy as not a real solution to anything.
Very well said. And a lot of these Arab countries have to pretend to be upset at Israel because even though a lot of these are monarchies, authoritarian-like states, they still have to appeal to their populace. Their populace that is extremely pro-Palestinian. That's why you would see Saudi Arabia and their kingdom put out these ridiculous statements like, oh, we will never have normalization with Israel as they carry out genocide, as they still continue to make backroom deals. You have the UAE, who make these bullshit statements saying that Israel annexing the West Bank will cross the red line, even though Israel have long since crossed these red lines. How is the slaughter of your Palestinian brothers and sisters not already a red line? If you guys don't understand the role that these people play, I covered this before, but isn't this doesn't it perfectly show the role that these people play? The UAE has been one of the leading states that have been waging a war against Hamas. During this time where Israel was committing a genocide, you had the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and a lot of these Arab states that were saying that Hamas must disarm, which is essentially a suicide. There will be suicide for the Palestinian people. It will essentially give Israel the right to do whatever they want to the Palestinians with impunity. But this is what the Arab leaders have been doing. This is what they've been focusing on, is weakening the Palestinian resistance while pretending to oppose Israel. And also, fuck the UAE forever for the genocide they're complicit in Sudan as well. They move just like Zionists. The same way that Christian Zionists play a very important role in facilitating Zionism in the West, Muslim Zionists play a very important role as well by weakening the Arab resistance against Zionism and normalizing the state of Israel. But anyway, Sarah, before I continue, I don't want to rant too much. Eddie, Sarah, anything you want to add before I move on?
I mean, no, I hate the Gulf.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, Hamas is like the last thing standing between Gaza and complete annexation, and they've already, because of the tragedy in Syria, which is maybe the most consequential geopolitical event of, the decade. People are maybe underestimating that. But because of that, a lot of these groups like Hezbollah and Hamas have already been cut off from weapons almost completely. So for these countries to call for them to just lay down the arms that they do have is so absurd and traitorous. And yes, like you said, they play a very important role in maintaining Zionism's grip on that region.
So you have Israel that's floating the idea. Well, they already pressing motions. You have Israeli Knesset members that are openly debating annexing the West Bank, which has been in the works for a while because everyone talk about the Israeli settlers that commit terrorist acts in the West Bank, but they ignore the fact that they're sponsored and wholly supported by Israel and the IDF. The violent settlers are tied to the hip. In fact, I covered last year, how the Biden administration was pretending they was going to put sanctions on the Israeli terrorists in the West Bank. It was the Netanyahu government. It was the Israeli government that was lobbying to protect the violent Israeli settlers in the West Bank. So I don't even like separate into the operations you see in the West Bank from these quote unquote terrorist settlers. They are IDF. They are engaged in the IDF operation, as far as I'm concerned. So you have the West Bank being annexed, and now you have Donald Trump and Israelis openly discussing. And this is your article. Sarah's always in the lab cooking. Always in the lab cooking. This is your article about the Great Trust, the Gaza future that U.S. planners are have in mind for the future of Gaza. So, Sarah, do you want to discuss this article?
Sure.
Some details why you wrote it and what the U.S. planned for Gaza, and then Eddie, I can get your reaction afterwards.
Yeah, I want both of your reactions. So the thread is obviously much more in depth, but the Great Trust is a PDF that showed up in a WAPO article, which they claim was a leak from the Trump administration. But take that with a grain of salt. These things are usually public opinion balloons, and they kind of see how they float or how they're kind of reacted to. But this shit is crazy. It's basically a digital physical economic zone. It is kind of like a company town on meth, where like the Palestinians are kind of trapped in this sort of central area, and on the east of them is industry, and on the west of them is tourism. That's where they'll work. Donald Trump plans to build islands. I think that they let him see the palms in Dubai, and he now thinks that that's like you take Donald Trump to these places and you show him this opulence, and that's it. You've already like sealed your fate. He comes right out of that, and he wants camels and islands and Trump towers in every Arab city, and that's a lot of what this is. So it's called the Great Trust. And it's Gaza's future, imagined by U.S. investors or U.S. planners, Israeli strategists, and Gulf investors. It's a U.S.-led, now this word's important, it's a U.S.-led custodianship over Gaza for an indefinite amount of time. And during that entire time, Israel retains all rights to interfere as they see fit for their security. So that means that they just get to do whatever they want. The GHF is also heavily involved, which it's just crazy. And you know what's interesting is that we were going to talk about it, but we won't get time to talk about it now. But that Reported app that I wrote about on my personal account, the one that you're supposed to report anti-Semitism with, the same people on the board at the Great Trust are on the board at the Reported app and on the board at GHF. The same exact people. Johnny Moore, Reverend Johnny Moore. And we always talk about the Jew. It's not the Jews, it's the Zionists. It's the Christian Zionist in the center. He is literally in the center of all of this. But I digress. So obviously the crypto guys have their hands in this. You can see where they have their hand in it, because one of the mega projects is called the Elon Musk Smart Manufacturing Zone. There's plans for U.S. data centers, plans for an MBS highway and an MBZ thoroughfare. It's crazy. I really implore people to go through the PDF. It also talks about concentration camps. They just call them security zones, I believe.
So I really want to hammer this one, and I want you to explain this, because not only is there a rise of techno-fascism, the merging of big tech in the government, they're doing it for a reason, to push their Zionist agenda that's designed to crack down on free speech. And you wrote this article, and this has been like common theme of mine for the last few weeks, where I'm like, bro, I feel like the left is sleeping on this anti-Semitism psyop that they use to destroy free speech in Germany. Free speech is non-existent. It's non-existent in the UK. Like, there are elderly women being arrested for wearing Palestine action shirts, for example. So, like, what is this, a new app where they're going to have reports of anti-Semitism?
Yes.
So Sarah, do you want to describe this a little more?
I won't download the app, and I suggest none of you guys do that either. But one of my stupid friends downloaded it, and so I kind of vicariously lived through him. And you can report anything that you see that is anti-Semitic. It could be outside, it could be on Twitter, it could be in a book, it could be anywhere. It can be anywhere. And so we now have an army of Zionists and I guess their cohorts and their supporters that can now go around and report anything for being anti-Semitic. The problem is that this is ran by the ADL. So it uses the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, which means any criticism of Israel, the IDF, the war, the genocide, any of it is anti-Semitic. And you could be put on a list, and kind of these things sort of lead into those sort of Where's Daddy, Lavender, Esther, all of those sorts of things that get you checked when you come back from Iraq or whatever. Like, so it's another funnel, another bottleneck into getting people basically voluntarily getting people to snitch on each other and then put them on these sort of watch lists.
Yeah. So Eddie, I want to get your thoughts on this as well, but a lot of liberals, or I'll just say people who are basic, they will just say fascism is the merging between state and the corporation. But a lot of people don't analyze why the state is merging with the corporation, because we understand that fascism is state-mandated class warfare against the working class. It's a way to give the capitalist class the power they need to suppress free speech. So why does the state and the corporation merge? To wage class war against the working class, to uphold their systems of imperialism. So you covered the issue of Israel, Gaza a lot. You face a lot of censorship the same way I face a lot of censorship. Any reaction to MAGA just paving the way to this new era of Ziocensorship, Zio-authoritarianism?
Yeah, I mean, we've been saying for a while we'll be in a true era of fascism when there's a real working class movement in this country that can threaten power, and the state needs to mobilize in order to crush it, even on a greater degree than it has been in the past. And I think that's what we're seeing here. You know, you can't be neutral on a moving train, and the events in Gaza have pushed people towards a really radical, revolutionary, pro-armed struggle position. And now the government is setting the traps that it needs in order to catch people, in order to harass people like the members of our party when they come back from trips abroad, and eventually, to throw us in jail or kill us for, doing what all three of us do in fighting against the imperialist world system. And I mean, this is that DDG article is just really great research. It goes to show exactly what Israel is, and the American relationship with Israel. They're going to be able to profit off of, colonizing Gaza, off of destroying Gaza. They'll be able to make a few bucks just by funneling money into Israel. Like, I get that we have to make moralistic arguments, right? We have to use people's good morals to our advantage to encourage them to fight. But we also have to remember that the ruling class has no morals. They have no morals whatsoever. They only care about making profit and protecting their geostrategic interests, and they will do whatever it takes, right? So the only way to fight them ultimately is to meet them on the battlefield, to struggle against them, to do what the resistance fighters in the Middle East are doing, to do what they're doing in Yemen. You can beg and plead the ruling class to stop doing this and show them pictures of babies dying all you want. They're sick fucks. They don't care. They're going to turn it into, they're going to do whatever they want to make a profit. So, that's what comes to mind when I see that. But
they'll do all that, and then they'll tell you that Xi, Putin, and Kim are the axis of evil.
Yeah.
With a straight face.
They censor their own citizens for calling out the genocide. Because they want you to fear this, though. God forbid China holds a military parade. You can kill all the children you want. You can bomb all the hospitals you want. You can kill journalists. You can torture people to death, rape people to death. But God forbid, the second that China holds a military parade, why is China escalating and provoking tensions against the West? China's show of force, taunting the West. This is the kind of stuff they've been saying. Bro, the meltdown And when you look at this shit, like, are you guys suicidal? Do you guys see this shit? You guys want to fight this for Taiwan? Y'all niggas are crazy. Like, I'm not fighting this. Get the fuck out of here. You guys really want to fight and die against these people over Taiwan?
Yeah.
Like, this is what we're going to do?
China versus the they-them army. This is going to be incredible. China versus the they-them Zoomer army. This is just, I would pay.
The people in the United States are fighting just so they can have free college, don't have to pay their student loans.
Right.
The people in the military, just so they can get free healthcare. You guys think they're going to defeat this? That college kid who plays Call of Duty and is on the side. Like, I've seen these people in the military. I trained with them, Eddie. I know you have too.
I served in the military. We could never. I was literally in awe. I watched it live because I obviously I'm going to, and I'm like, just my jaw was on the floor. It was like we couldn't even like even come up with this to even try, let alone we could absolutely never. The aura was just off the charts, absolutely off the charts.
I'll spare you guys one of my long boomer life stories. But one of the first people I trained jiu-jitsu was a military trainer. He had a gym called Warrior Jiu-Jitsu. You probably still be able to look it up in Warrensburg, where I used to go to college. And he had a job where he trained military people. He used to teach them jiu-jitsu. So he had all these military people that used to come through the gym. They're not that spectacular, man. Let me tell you. Don't get me wrong. There are probably some Marines who are some badasses. But they're not that spectacular, guys. I train with these people. I train police officers. They're very underwhelming.
The fitness.
Go ahead, Eddie.
The fitness test to join at least the guard is like 10 push-ups. Like it's. And I hope people realize too the big difference here. These countries like China, right? We have like these pacifists and leftists who see the military and they're like, that's authoritarian, that's bad. All right, look at what Israel's doing with Gaza. They want to set up a bunch of Western banks. They want to allow a bunch of Western corporations in to profit off of the region. China owns all of their banks. So they don't allow Western banks to come in and trap their people in debt and make money off of their people. They allow some corporations in, but they're heavily, heavily controlled, and they own all of the land. That's the difference. That's what the U.S. wants. That's why they back Israel. They want that land. They want those resources, and they want to be able to trap China's people in debt. And that's why China has to have a military parade to show the empire, hell no. We plan on maintaining our sovereignty and our economic independence, which is why the U.S. will continue trying to destroy them until it sputters out.
This is why Western liberals annoy the fuck out of me. The concept you just explained, Eddie. Because they will look at states like the DPRK and they say, this is a militarized state. Do you see the military drills?
Yeah, they are a militarized state. That's a couple million people that are all militarized and will defend their country. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, look at what a militarized state gets you. Look at America.
Exactly, Sarah. You nailed it. You got exactly where I was going with that. And what Eddie I meant was,
look at Iran. Look at Iran. You want to like DPRK did everything right, and now you're mad. That's why Iran did everything wrong. There's the two situations. Should you go get nukes and be like DPRK, or should you placate and posture and be patient like Iran? I think that being militarized is a much better way to go.
And they will never forgive the DPRK for making that correct decision.
No, never.
They will never forgive them for preventing themselves from being Gaddafi. Like they've seen these mistakes. And what liberals and what many DSA leftists don't understand is that having a strong national defense, having a strong military in states like the DPRK is a strong point of national pride because they have a historical connection with struggle against an imperial empire. So, like, if you are part of the empire and your history is just blowing people the fuck up, yeah, it's kind of cringe to have military culture when you have nothing to celebrate with your military. But if your society came from revolution and your society came from defending yourself from giant Western capital against the most evil, barbaric people in society, you goddamn right you're going to have a militarized society and you're going to have pride in that, right? And that's what we see from the DPRK. That's what we see from China. And people in the liberal class, the liberal neocons, they will convince themselves to hate the DPRK and China because of that. How many times have you guys seen headlines where they say China is provoking Japan and provoking their Asian neighbors because they hosted military drills? They have military drills in the South China Sea.
Because we hold 800 military drills a year around the world, but they're never a provocation.
Exactly.
This was so great. This was so delicious. Trump's reactions were so delicious.
Yeah. Just feel free to chime in. This is a fun time. I'm literally scrambling to see which receipts we're gonna get to. I might have to edit the Epstein story out. We got a lot of fucking shit to cover today.
I want Eddie's reaction to the G clip because Eddie will have much smarts to add to that.
I also want to show the Putin press conference. I'm really trying to decide what we're gonna cover for the rest of the time of the show. But let's start with this tweet, and I want to cover the Putin press conference next. Maybe the Epstein story will be last. Maybe I'll do a quick 15. That'll probably be our closure segment. But let's cover this because Trump had a gigantic meltdown. I want to get Eddie and Sarah. I want to get your guys' thoughts on this first. But here's a tweet or a truth, whatever fucking you call it. The big question to be answered is whether or not President Xi of China will mention the massive amount of support and blood the United States gave China in order for it to secure its freedom. Oh, Jesus Christ. From a very, very unfriendly foreign invader. Many Americans died in China's quest for victory and glory. Let me continue. I hope that they are rightfully honored and remembered for their bravery and sacrifice. May President Xi and the wonderful people of China have a great and lasting day of celebration. Please give my warmest regards to Putin, Kim Jong-un, who, as you conspire against the United States of America. So, guys, help. What is this? Eddie, Sarah?
I love it.
What the fuck is he talking about? The Chinese were fighting the Japanese by themselves in basically an entirely different theater of war. The only thing that the U.S. did that by accident helped China was nuking Japan. But that was just because Japan was the U.S.'s imperial rival, and they tried to seize China right after. They dumped all this money and guns into the nationalists in the Chinese Civil War. The idea that the U.S. sacrificed blood and American soldiers to help free China from colonialism is pretty wild, even from an American president.
This is why we gotta constantly engage in propaganda. Like, we need more RBN, Midwestern Marks. You need to brainwash your children, because if you don't, this is the bullshit they're gonna learn. But go ahead, Sarah.
You have to teach people how to read I tell people all the time, like, even on my own show, I use Western sources more than I use anything else because you have to teach people how to read it. The truth is right there. If you know how to read Western, I'm subscribed to the New York Times. Like, I'm a full-on subscriber. WAPO, New York Times, Wall Street, give it all to me. Those are the best places to find out what's actually going on. You know who taught me that is Brian Berletich. Was like, you don't need to read anything else besides the Western media. And you don't.
You guys see, I do propaganda reports all the time with just Western sources. Like, I cover my radical ass politics. I break down why my politics is correct, why the establishment is wrong, using their sources.
Exactly.
I do it all the time, which is why it's crazy people don't see through it, because it's right there. Like, they openly admit a lot of stuff, openly impressed, and they will like just brag about it. For example, they will brag about destabilizing countries. Mostly on like right-wing sources. Like, right-wing sources are amazing. I covered this, like, for example, like in Ukraine, you will have what is his name, General Jack Kern or someone like that. Unlike the liberal networks they pretend stuff is about human rights. Like, if you watch MSNBC,
right,
they'll say we are fighting in Ukraine for human rights. But if you watch the right-wing network, they'll say, nah, nigga, we making so much money in our military-industrial complex. I don't know why you guys complaining. We're not spending money on Ukraine. We're making bangers by selling weapons for them. So they'll listen to like Kevin Leary, listen to Mark Levin, and they spell out the game all the time. And to me, it's shocking the kind of stuff they get away with. That's why I thought it was funny that you said that, Sarah, because I had the same thoughts. But Eddie, anything else you want to add? I want to get to the Putin speech. I want to make sure we cover this as well. But anything else you guys want to add before I move on, Eddie and Sarah?
Go ahead.
All right, so this, Sarah, you say you watched the entire press conference with Putin. This is a viral part of the speech. I saw you guys posted as well, where he explained how essentially the colonial era is over, and he explained how you have the United States to try to bully other smaller countries on the world stage. And when you listen to CNN analysis over this, they'll say Putin makes the claim. They're claiming that the United States is bullying people. What are you talking about? Can you see the reality of what's going on? So I'll play a few of these clips of this press conference. And I also want Sarah, like, anything that you've seen that you want to bring up. I know you say you've been watching a lot of this. I think this is very notable to hear Putin speak, because when you hear everything he lays out, because he talks about a wide range of issues like Ukraine, his beef with NATO, why he's coming together with China. When you listen to Putin speak, he's extremely reasonable. Like, it's the complete opposite of Lindsey Graham, who will go on Fox News after leaving church and explaining why we got to kill all the Palestinians, for example. But let's play this. I'll play this in its entirety, and then we can respond afterwards.
Подробная консультация с некоторыми нашими партнерами, да, сейчас не буду говорить, и с некоторыми из них у нас тоже такой дисбаланс, не в нашу пользу. Ну, мы же стремимся к чему? Мы стремимся к тому, чтобы вместе с партнерами договориться о том, что же они могли бы нам поставить, что бы мы могли им поставить. В ходе этой совместной работы найти решение вот этих проблем. И у нас получается, кстати говоря, у нас одним из партнеров у нас в 3 раза поставки на наш рынок превышает то, что мы поставляем на рынок нашего партнера. В 3 раза. Ну, что мы же, набираясь терпения, ищем решение. Первое. Второе. Все-таки такие страны, как Индия, почти 1,5 миллиарда человек, Китай, с мощными экономиками, но и со своими внутриполитическими законами. Вы понимаете, ведь когда со стороны говорят, а мы вас сейчас вот прижим, мы вас сейчас накажем. Ну, как руководство таких стран, мощных, больших, которые пережили очень непростые периоды своей истории, связанные с колониализмом, связанные с попытками наездов в течение длительного исторического периода на их суверенитет. Как они должны реагировать? Но если кто-то из них даст слабину, все, политическая карьера закончилась. Так же, как закончилась колониальная эпоха. Но это невозможно сегодня в таком тоне разговаривать с такими партнерами. Но мне кажется, что в конечном итоге все станет на свои места и вернется в русло нормального.
You can't talk to your partners like that anymore. You guys see how the message is clear? There is no misunderstanding about what this is about. This is because of long-standing U.S. misleadership on the global stage. But I'll pass it to Sarah.
These things are so important. These little pressers, these little things. I really dissected Putin's actions when he was in Alaska. You have to listen to what he's saying. That is a direct insult or a direct call out to Donald Trump saying, I'm in trade deficits. I don't care. I'm patient. We might argue that he's a little too friggin' patient, but that's exactly what he's doing. And he's saying, you can't talk to people like this anymore. We're not in a world where, people have forgotten about your ruthless colonialism and imperialism. And it's interesting. You brought it up first, Nick, in the beginning, and you mentioned colonialism. Putin mentions it. Xi mentioned it in his opening speech. Maduro mentioned it multiple times in his speech to Beijing. Everyone is carrying on this theme of we will not be colonized anymore. Western imperialism does not live here anymore. This is a multipolar world. They have inferenced that multiple times, and constantly invoking the history is a very important thing, because Americans do not ever look at history, especially Donald Trump. We have somebody who's saying this is a war of personalities. If I could just get them in a room and talking, I could make them friends. And it's like, there's so much more to this. They don't even like you, bro. They don't like what America stands for, bro. That's nothing to do with Putin and Xi, or just Putin and Zelensky. It's really important that people watch and understand what these leaders are actually saying.
Yeah, and when you listen to Putin, it's clear that the MAGA plan to create peace in Ukraine was always delusional. Like, you guys remember? I roasted the Vivek Ramaswamy plan for peace. We had this big brain plan. He was like, all we had to do to end the Ukraine war is to show China that they should choose us instead of Russia. We're going to separate Russia from China, and they're going to make the right decision at the end of the day. You will hear Trump and his people say these delusional solutions to ending the Ukraine war. And then whenever I hear like these right-wing grifters, propagandists, these people who lie, the Dave Smiths, the people who lied to their viewers that Donald Trump was going to end this war, I knew that wasn't true based on what they were saying, because it was clear that you never listened to Putin, you never listened to Lavrov, you never actually understood the Russian demand. But Eddie, I know you want to chime in. Any other response to this? And I found another great clip that you shared regarding Putin's take on the Ukraine situation, because as I mentioned earlier, he talks about a lot of different issues, and that's kind of what we're covering in this segment. Eddie, anything else you want to add to the segment? Any takes you have?
Yeah, I mean, the people get mad at us for being too high on Putin, and as Sarah said, sometimes we have disagreements with Putin where we wish he would act a little bit more rashly or a little bit more impatiently in favor of a multipolar world. But at the same time, the US tried to kill the Soviet Union and that Soviet spirit, but when you listen to Putin talk, you realize why we're so, favorable towards Putin as compared to other world leaders. The U.S. was never able to kill that spirit of the Soviets, which was anti-colonial. If you look at what the Cold War was, which I often say was actually a hot war between the U.S. and the Soviets that was just fought in the global South mainly, or in the colonial world, it was mostly the Soviets backing, funding, arming independence movements and people's struggles for sovereignty, with the U.S. funding and arming jihadists and the most horrific right-wing fascistic organizations imaginable. So the Soviet Union has always fought for always fought for a decolonize. I hate to use the word decolonize because it has a different meaning now. An anti-colonial world, I'll say. They've always fought for global independence, and the U.S. thought that was dead. They truly thought that was dead in the 90s after the fall of the Soviet Union. They thought China was on the way to neoliberalism, and Russia was as well. And that has turned out to not be the case. Now, if they can get India, I think Xi said if the great dragon can dance with the great elephant, if they can get India on board with this, and if India can start kicking out some of these Western colonizers and corporations and banks, that would be, an incredibly devastating blow to the U.S. And they're heading that direction. I don't know. I think they need to get rid of Modi, and the Indian people need to, the Indian working class needs to assert its own sovereignty over their own country in order to go all the way with that. But they're taking steps towards uniting with Russia and China rather than the U.S. And this world of unipolar U.S. hegemony is coming to an end. And these guys are saying explicitly, or maybe even subtly, that they're done being colonized, and it's great to see.
What's that, Sarah? Anything else you want to add? I want to get to this clip here. He's talking about Ukraine. I found this clip to be very interesting. Let's just watch it and we can react to it.
Кризиса, когда страну стали затаскивать в НАТО, а вот сейчас мы видим, что европейские лидеры, которые заявляют и рассуждают о неких гарантиях безопасности для Украины, они практически полностью концентрируются на теме развертывания своих войск на Украине. При этом многие продолжают настаивать еще и на вступлении Украины в ЕС. Но мы ведь тоже видим, что Евросоюз, он стремительно на глазах превращается из некогда экономического объединения, такое подобие военно-политического блока, когда практически постоянно агрессивное решение, агрессивные заявления. Вот все эти расклады, как вы можете прокомментировать?
Я согласен с теми, кто считает, что каждая сторона имеет право выбирать, сама выбирать систему обеспечения своей безопасности. Это касается всех стран, в том числе и Украины. Но это также означает, что безопасность одной стороны не может быть обеспечена за счет безопасности другой стороны.
He explains how Ukraine has a right to secure their security, but not at the expense of Russia. And my question I've been asking to the NATO left and all the dipshit DSA people, like, I support Ukraine. How is this an unreasonable position? Like, historically, doesn't Russia have many reasons to be concerned about NATO in the West, who's shown they have a tendency to engage in anti-Russian military actions? They have shown through their actions that they don't care about the sovereignty of other countries. So to me, it always, from day one, made 100% sense for Russia to say, hey, man, Ukraine, you can do whatever you want, but we want you to be a neutral buffer state, because on the other side, they are supporting and financing genocide. On the other side, they destabilize Yugoslavia, Libya, the Middle East. So, of course, they want a fucking buffer state between them and these psychopaths who only know war. Is that unreasonable? Does anyone think that? I don't think that's unreasonable. If that made me a fucking crazy tanky, because I wouldn't want to live next to Nazis, I'm sorry. I guess I'm a fucking crazy tanky. This is why the Russian people support him, and I would too. In the same situation where you've been invaded by Ukraine, by Nazis before, when you've been invaded through the same route by Napoleon, when there are tens of millions of dead Russians because you trusted the West too much, I 100% will support Putin in their same scenario. But Eddie, I think you want to chime in, Sarah. Feel free. We're just having a fun conversation. Feel free, guys.
I just wanted to say, you said NATO is committing genocide, and why would Russia trust them? And of course, I would argue they were committing genocide in Ukraine against the ethnic Russians, banning their language, shelling their homes, all with American weapons, of course. And filtering actual neo-Nazi battalions into the Ukrainian military. Like, that would be like the KKK joining the American military. Like, yeah, Russia's kind of fucking worried about that.
Yeah. Sarah, anything you want to add before I move on? I guess we can finish the clip and I'll give your thoughts.
Безопасности другой стороны, в данном случае Российской Федерации. Мы всегда возражали против того, чтобы Украина была членом этого Североатлантического блока, но никогда не ставили под сомнение ее право заниматься своей экономической, хозяйственной деятельностью так, как она хочет. В том числе это касается и...
Once again, that's 100% reasonable, man. He like, you guys can join the EU, but you can't join the military alliance. You know, the military alliance that is looking for a reason to justify their salary. They're looking for a reason to justify their budget. This is why they're always looking for conflict. That's why they're conflict in Ukraine. Because how are you going to justify your military spending, your positions in NATO, if there's not a conflict with Russia? That's why NATO inherently will always be a destabilizing force. You want to know who described this and who said this very eloquently? Xi Jinping and the China foreign minister. They explained this is why they view Russia as engaging in self-defense, because they were against a never-ending military expansion bloc that needs to justify their existence with endless aggression. This is what the Bernie Sanders pro-NATO left, the Matt Duss, Hassan Piker left, they don't understand this fact. That as a leftist, as an anti-imperialist, you're supposed to be inherently pro-NATO, because NATO will always look to expand their influence and look for conflict to justify their existence. Anything else you guys want to ask Sarah, Eddie? Sarah, I know you watched a lot of this press conference. Anything else notable that Putin said that you think that we should cover out? There's a great long thread.
I should actually do more, because he went on and on about Donald Trump, and he was kind of like joking around about him. He's like, "Oh yeah, we had fun. We call each other by first names." Like it was almost like nothing serious even happened. It was just like a pro get together. Like, he was very funny, but he talked to reporters for a very long time. But I do think Xi's opening speech is also important. So which kind of said the same thing against a much more dramatic backdrop. I don't know. I was so like over the moon this whole weekend with SCO and the Chinese parade that I just want to share everything, I guess.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what clips I should show first because we don't have all night. But there's so much. I think it's very important for Americans to hear what these people are saying. Like, even though we don't have time to cover everything, I implore you guys to listen to the speeches of Xi Jinping and Putin and these leaders that Americans trying to convince us that we should hate. And the people who are ignorant, they're the ones who fall for it. They're the one who engage in Putin derangement syndrome. They engage in Xi Jinping anti-China derangement syndrome. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Is the pro-war, pro-NATO left who we've been aggressively calling out. I mean, I have nothing against my brother, Dr. Cornel West, but that's part of our split. Was because he was like, we got to stand for Alexei Navalny. And I was like, nigga, never in a million years will that ever happen. And you guys know that's the origin of our split. Like, these are the kind of things that we can't tolerate, and we got to have awareness in our position of being within the empire, and we cannot ever legitimize the empire talking to points against their enemies. So let's play this clip. I'll say this is another clip from G I want to play. I'm gonna see if there's anything else, but let's play this clip and we can react to this. I want to show at least one clip of G speaking before we move on.
历史承载过去，也启迪未来。新时代新征程，全国各族人民要在中国共产党坚强领导下，坚持马克思列宁主义。
Based Xi Jinping, what a giant W! You can't convince me to hate this guy. What a giant W!
坚强领导下，坚持马克思列宁主义。 毛泽东思想、邓小平理论、三个代表重要思想、科学发展观，全面贯彻新时代中国特色社会主义思想，坚定不移走中国特色社会主义道路，传承和弘扬伟大 抗战精神，出力奋发，勇毅前行，为中国式现代化全面推进强国建设、民族复兴伟业而团结奋斗。
There are actually U.S. leftists that would prefer Bernie Sanders over this guy.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine preferring Zoran Mamdani over this guy?
This is the clip that I sent anyway. So this is the one that I sent to Zoya in the chat.
I'm glad. Sarah, if there's anything else you want to cover, just let me know.
No, I wanted to cover this. I thought it was really great that he.
This is a great speech.
Marxism, Lenin. It wasn't long either, but it was fantastic. It was.
Yeah,
a great
I'm definitely gonna go back and watch the whole thing. I havenent seen it yet. So I definitely will watch it because you guys know I'm a nerd. I love watching this shit. Like, this is like the difference between G and even just the average. Cause remember we showed a clip of that of the former Chinese foreign minister, and it was maybe a few months ago. It was an amazing clip where he just destroys the West on Ukraine, Israel, a wide range of issues. So the point I'm making is that whenever you look at the Chinese leaders, they have a wide understanding of foreign issues, geopolitical understanding of what's going on. Do you guys think that Kamala Harris, for example, has a complex understanding of the geopolitical history between China and Taiwan and why U.S. recognition of Taiwan is so crucial to our relationship with China? Do you think that Kamala Harris can explain this in an eloquent way? Of course not. Do you think that Kamala Harris can describe the history between Russia and Ukraine and why Russia views that as no, they have no intellectual understanding, and their intellectual capacity compared to the leaders in China and Russia is extremely limited. This is why people in the West don't understand why people in China support their leaders, why Putin and the Chinese Communist Party has extremely high approval rating because they live in a completely different reality than we do. And what a lot of Americans do is they project the failures that their leaders have on other countries as a way to cope. Because in America, Congress has around a 20% approval rating.
Yeah.
We've been stuck with Nancy Pelosi for 40 years, who's minus 25 on a good day. So because our system failed and because our politicians don't represent us, Americans who believe in American exceptionalism, a lot of Trotskyites as well, they project our failures on other countries and assume that they have an evil, malicious ruling class, when that's not always the case. That is pure American way of thinking. But I was just ranting. Eddie, you want to chime in? I think
for sure. I mean, that was one of the best Xi speeches I've heard in a while. You know, in the 90s, China, they were a little bit quieter about championing Marxism-Leninism. They still were. You know, they were still under the guidance of the party, but they weren't coming out here and saying, you know, we are a Marxist-Leninist country as loudly as Xi is saying here, when all the world's eyes are on him because of this summit. And this is so beautiful to see. And that's why he and the Chinese people have so much, you know, more thorough and understanding of geopolitics and their economic system, and why they've lifted so many people out of poverty while Americans are falling into poverty. And you see now, Donald Trump promised to bring the jobs back and promised to end the wars, but he doesn't know how. And the reason he doesn't know how is because he doesn't have a Marxist-Leninist understanding. There's no way the president can use the executive office to save America. There needs to be a revolutionary movement. We need land redistribution, right? We need public jobs. We need the nationalization of major sectors of the economy. We need the complete seizure of the American banking system. These are all things that China has done that the U.S. hasn't. And I can't help but nerd out for a little bit. These people's understanding of Marxism-Leninism is so deep. I know reading all 3 volumes of Capital isn't for everybody, okay? But I have read all 3 volumes of Capital. It was a mountain to climb. Nobody understands it. Nobody understood Marxist theory quite like the Chinese in general. And they have this understanding of the historical process of development. So China under Mao Zedong, it wasn't the same as China under Deng Xiaoping, wasn't the same as China under Xi Jinping. So they constantly need to adapt. And you hear him say Mao Zedong thought there, right? And you might think, well, they're not like crazy American Maoists, right? Who are wild and say that China's not real socialism because Mao's not in power anymore. No, they call it Mao Zedong thought, which makes a distinction between the general thought of Mao Zedong and these crazy Maoists who are like dogmatic, basically religious Marxists. So they know that Mao made mistakes, but they say we're going to take from Mao the good and carry on the good and leave behind the bad and what we've criticized. And they have this complete anti-dogmatic attitude, right? They uphold their historical leaders. They don't do what Khrushchev did and give in to what's called national historical nihilism and bash the leader who came before him and Stalin and give the Western propagandists a bunch of free ammo. No, they uphold Mao, even though they understand that he made mistakes. And then they think, okay, based on the conditions that we inherited from Mao, how do we go forward? There's none of that in the U.S. There's just this posturing about we're going to fix the country, but the country belongs to the corporations and banks at the end of the day. So it's
we're going to fight the oligarchy.
Right.
Well said, Eddie.
It's beautiful to see their understand, and the theory that's coming out of China right now from these Chinese Marxist-Leninists is just on another level. They're living in 2035. I cannot wait to see what their country looks like in another 10 years, and the way that they bring the world together against imperialism, which is what they've been doing in a new and strategic way, which is, again, if you read, sorry, I'm nerding out right now, but if you read the if you read the inner Chinese Communist Party debates, they're constantly looking at the Soviets. They're constantly looking at Yugoslavia, and they're saying, okay, this worked and this didn't. So let's, take that and leave behind the other. And that is why they're the most advanced nation in the world today. and the most advanced socialist country in the world today that's leading this emerging multipolar order. So God bless China is all I have to, have to say.
Exactly. And I think that's so important because we talk about the Great Firewall as well. And people always say, oh, you know, they're restricted. And it's like, no, it's to actually protect them from us. You can see that they're very extroverted when it comes to gathering information and intelligence and theory and stuff like that. But they're shielded from all of the kind of crap. And I do have friends on Twitter that are Chinese, and their understanding of things is just, I don't even know if I could get Americans to that point, but it's always people centric. It's always through a working class lens. It's always people are the party, and the party is the people, and that's it. Then that's who runs the country. The country is ran by the Chinese Communist Party, who is the people.
Which is where the Soviets went wrong. Again, that, you know, under Khrushchev, the party became disconnected, and they talk about that all the time. They say, you know, our party remains rooted in the people. Xi Jinping launched these massive anti-corruption efforts to kick out all of the corrupt officials who were being bribed by the U.S. They're constantly learning from their mistakes and going forward, and that's what American leaders have less than zero ability to do.
Yeah, see, this is why we're glad that Eddie joined us today. It's great to have Eddie and Sarah on because they're one of the few people who can match my level of nerding out over geopolitical issues. Eddie definitely can match my level when it comes to the level of enthusiasm we have with the progress of the working class, which is why I find anti-China leftists to be very weird. Like, you're not celebrating this progress. You're not celebrating this massive victory in the class war that we got over the capitalist class. Like, this is the person they want us to be afraid of. And I want to get to the speech because the speech ends on a banger. So I didn't forget the video. Trust me, I will get back to the video. But I'm in a way trying to show you guys what he said during the speech for the most part. And listen to this part of the speech. And I was skimming this because I haven't seen the whole speech yet. And how is this the axis of evil? How is this the evil tyrant that has been painted to the American people? Look, history warns us that humanity rises and falls together. Only when all countries and nations treat each other as equals and coexist in peace. Oh, the inhumanity. Oh, look at the evil Xi Jinping calling for world peace. Like, if you're a leftist and you have China derangement syndrome, what is wrong with you? If you're American, you think Xi Jinping is evil. This is what he is saying. As American politicians are tweeting shit like "kill them all," like Randy Fine. You got Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz explaining how we got to engage in the final solution, cheering on the deaths of Russians, explaining how we got to have imperial dominance over Africa and the global south. It's nothing but violence, death, murder. We got to have more police in the street. We have more police killing Americans. Nothing but unhinged, violent rhetoric that comes from our politicians compared to Xi Jinping that's calling for world peace and cooperation. Isn't this dastardly? Like CNN, like you guys see the CNN headline. Like he defiantly calling for world peace. He called for world peace in a defiant way. China called for world peace, but at what cost? Like this is great. This is great stuff. Only when all countries and nations treat each other as equals, coexist in peace, and support each other can we uphold common security, eradicate the root causes of war, and prevent reoccurrence of historical tragedies. Comrades and friends. That's supposed to say my friends and family. That's what I like to say. Comrades and friends. The Chinese nation is a great nation that is never intimidated by any bullies, always values independence and forges ahead. In the past, when faced with critical struggles between good and evil, light and darkness, progress and reaction, the Chinese people rallied together to define the enemy. They fought for survival of the country, for rejuvenation of the Chinese nation, and for the justice of all humanity. Today, humanity again has to choose between peace and war. You want to know what side the West is on? The West is on the side of war. They're like, we can have ceasefire in Gaza. That would benefit Hamas. We didn't have a ceasefire in Ukraine. That would benefit Putin. But you gotta see how this speech is an absolute banger, and I'm actually gonna watch the whole thing probably later tonight. But let me go back to this because I was reading a part that this video clip doesn't cover. Let me play this speech to the end, and then we get back to Sarah and Eddie for our final taste. And we begin to wrap up soon. We're about 90 minutes in. Let's watch this last part of the speech, and we begin to wrap this.
坚强领导下，坚持马克思列宁主义、毛泽东思想、邓小平理论、三个代表重要思想、科学发展观，全面贯彻新时代中国特色社会主义思想，坚定不移走中国特色社会主义道路，传承和弘扬伟大抗战精神，出力奋发，勇毅前行，为中国式现代化全面推进强国建设、民族复兴伟业而团结奋斗。中华民族伟大复兴势不可挡，人类和平与发展的崇高事业必将胜利。
How dare you call for peace and development for humanity? Aren't you guys afraid? Boomers in the suburbs are afraid after hearing this. But anyway, we can begin to wrap up. Sarah, Eddie, any final thoughts?
No, you're fine. My charger's good. We're good. I'm fine.
You gonna go?
Yeah.
Any reactions to the speech, Eddie, Sarah?
I loved the speech. I'll watch it 1,000 more times. I've already watched it like 10 times. I watched the whole thing like a ton of times.
Yeah. Even without a deep understanding of Marxism, Leninism, like even on an aesthetic level, it's like, damn, our leaders are so dumb. And how nice would it be to have a leader like Xi Jinping or Putin who can give a speech where they're citing history and they're talking about a plan for the country that's been, in place for 7 decades. We don't have anything like that. And China's gotten better in recent years, and this has been a conscious effort at explaining their system to the world, right? They know that the U.S. war machine is always going to continue to be pro-war because that's how they make their profit, and the profiteers run the country. China understands that, but they're now making it more simple for people, being like, look, we're on the side of peace. They're on the side of war. Which one do you want to side with? And I recommend people read Xi Jinping's book on the governance of China if you want to learn more about it, and you'll be mind blown by at least I was. It was one of the first Marxist books I ever read, and I was like, man, I didn't know as much about theory at the time, but I'm like, it would be so nice to have a leader who is this smart and this rational and this measured and this non-dogmatic. So even just on the surface level, I don't know how people don't see what China's doing and support it over the U.S. and NATO.
This is the true axis of resistance right here. Look at this powerful, beautiful photo. I guess the best we can do as we struggle for revolution in our country, as we fight for the betterment of our working class, is live kind of vicariously through the Chinese people. Like you said, Eddie, I'll be looking forward to see what they are accomplishing. The plans they announced is very ambitious. It's great to see that this.
He introduced a new initiative. He set forth a new initiative for world governance. Like they haven't released all the details, but I think that's the most important thing. He put that forth at the SCO. It was supported verbally by both Lukashenko and Putin and everyone else that I heard speak. But there is an initiative for global governance, and this is about ushering in the multipolar world. Lukashenko and Putin both had a conversation about it that was recorded, and Putin spoke about it in his speech. They're very, very I'm very curious as to what it is, but it looks like SCO is morphing into what we wanted BRICS to be. SCO is becoming a sort of more it's becoming very security block. It's very, very focused on security and defense, and that's excellent for the countries that are involved. Look at the things that happened at the SCO this weekend. We had Pakistan say, yeah, I think we'll recognize Armenia. We had China and Armenia enter into an agreement, which that could disrupt the corridor. The SCO is the counter, these at least the Eurasian counter to NATO for now, and they're doing fantastic. The agreements that came out, and we haven't even read all of them.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Also, I'm so jealous of all these countries and all these flags. Zoya, when are we gonna legally immigrate to China? I'm gonna hide in Jason Smith's basement. Like, we have a lot of people from China on our show. I'm sure we can find somebody that can harbor us. Cause China, like, bro, we got nothing to hide.
It's actually not that difficult to get a visa now to China. It's quite easy.
We just got to bring China here. The U.S. think about this. The U.S. has 13 times their natural resources, and they've been able to abolish poverty with, 13 times less natural resources. If the U.S. was to overthrow our corrupt government and have a working class government, the amount of cooperation we could have with China and the amount of good that we could bring the world, we'd be living in a Star Trek episode. But the U.S. and imperialism is the biggest fetter on humanity right now. It's a fetter on humanity. China's got a plan for development. The U.S. has nothing but a plan for destruction and
literally
pillaging of the rest of the world. Literally, that's all they know.
Yeah, that's very well said, Eddie. That's why I always laugh at the people that like, if you don't like America, why don't you leave? It's like, there's a revolutionary obligation that we have. Like, if it wasn't for the giant fat ass family that I have here that keep me happy, you know what I mean? I would have been gone, but there's a revolutionary obligation that we have to make our own country better. You guys know I was on Red Note a lot, and there was a thread that lives rent free in my mind. It actually got me fired up. I wish I can link it. I wish I can find it. But there was someone in China that was explaining how, for all the Americans who are jealous of China, you have to understand the generations that they fought to get to where they are right now. That there's a revolutionary struggle that their working class engaged in. They had this struggle against capitalism. They had people who fought, and they had people who died. And you can't skip that step. Like, it's very important for us to engage in in revolutionary cohesion as a community together to turn us closer to a China. There's no skipping steps. This is why RBN, this is why Midwestern Market, this is why we happily accept that challenge. We happily accept our role as people who educate Americans, who want to facilitate this kind of revolution. But I'm sharing this from Jason Smith. You gotta know Jason Smith is like our China guy. He was on a few weeks ago. American reporter who lives out of China. He was explaining all of the countries that got visa-free access to China, because China essentially is just inviting countries and people over to see their progress. They're like, man, we can't compete with this U.S. propaganda-funded network. Many of them that took a big hit with Radio Free Asia closing down. But they had this giant propaganda network. They're like, man, we can't really compete with this. And we don't really want to. Like, if we wanted to create a propaganda network, we probably can, but we're too busy, uplifting our working class out of poverty and building infrastructure projects instead of spending billions of dollars funding Nepo babies to spread propaganda for us like the United States did. So instead of doing that, they're like, hey, man, just come in and see China for yourself. And that's done wonder for China and their popularity. But anyway, I guess we can begin to wrap up. We're 90 minutes in. Sarah, Eddie, anything else you guys want to add?
Do you want to touch on Epstein? It's in the title.
Eddie, you have time? I can touch. I can do.
I don't even know what the hell's going on besides Nancy Mace having a panic attack, and then Michael Tracy, and this is where, like, Michael Tracy and what's his face, Ian Carroll fighting on the White House lawn. Like, what are we doing?
So Michael Tracy is definitely in shambles over this.
Michael Tracy is a mess, defending PDF files all over the internet. He has not met a PDF file he does not enjoy defending, whether it's Epstein or the Israeli who came over and went back to Israel. All of them. Anybody, if you are a PDF file and you need defending, Michael Tracy does pro bono work.
Check his hard drive, please, somebody.
Well, I never understood the hype behind that guy. I don't get it, man. But what is up with that?
I'll tell you what's going on. He gets that Theo money.
Oh, that was like a lot. I never trust him because I saw ever since he went after Fiorella Isabel, a friend of ours, because he's like, I don't trust anyone who works for RT. Like, the fuck? Like, that's some shit. Like, that kind of stuff. That was a long time ago. That I saw that he went after one of our friends. Like, all right, I don't trust this guy. And I'm always like validated in that. I never ever look at someone like I don't trust this person, and I'm like, damn, I was wrong. My instincts always tend to work out. I never trusted Michael Tracy, and now a lot of people are starting to realize why. But anyway, he's having a hard time because he refused to acknowledge that there's this giant conspiracy with Epstein. And you had these survivors, and I'm gonna find the clip here soon because I'm throwing this segment back together. They explain like you guys realize that Ghislaine Maxwell was the fall woman, right?
Yes.
And they explain how they want to see justice and accountability, because how does an operation in a network like Epstein works without support of a state, like without a support of a giant organization? I explained many times before. There are a lot of people, especially on the left, that they always shoo the concept of sex trafficking. I don't know why I guess ever since Pizzagate scarred them, they now inherently pretend that anyone who talk about sex rings and sex trafficking are engaging in conspiracy theories. They ignore the fact that sex trafficking is the second largest industry of illegal criminal behavior there is, only behind drug trafficking. You know how much humans love drugs. So only behind drug trafficking, you have sex trafficking, which is a $1 billion industry. And let me ask you guys a question. I've explained this concept before. You guys understand that sex trafficking is not inherently a working class crime, right? Who has the ability in the networks that can engage in something like sex trafficking? Remember, it's a $1 billion industry. It's a crime that is usually engaged in by the capitalist class. It's a ruling class crime. Like you have crimes that poor people engage in, like shoplifting, like petty violence crimes, muggings. You're not going to see rich people engage in that crime. But rich people have their own crime. They got money laundering, ton of white collar crimes. But when you look at sex trafficking can only be enabled with massive amount of funds and resources. And when you dive into the Jeffrey Epstein story, you hear he had getaway boats, he had piers and locations. But how was he able to secure the seas? How was he able to secure like the route for the boat they used to transport women through? You guys understand that this is not possible. And I'm just scratching the surface for the sake of time. You guys understand the operation that Jeffrey Epstein was engaged in is quite literally not possible without state support, right? Like it's not possible. Sex trafficking as a whole is not possible without institutionalized support, which is why it's a crime that the ruling class usually engages in. That's why there's this coordinated effort to downplay this. Like you still have liberals in CNN, MSNBC, you guys know watching people like they pretend that the Epstein story is just a right-wing conspiracy theory. It drives me crazy. They say MAGA people have been pushing this conspiracy. Eddie, you know more than anything. Who was the people that have been warning you about the capitalist sex code? It's another thing that the Tankies was right about. Like Tankies was right once again about the decadent capitalist culture, how they engage in sex cults and sex rituals. Now people are just now catching up on it. But
I'm
I read
really interested in the sex trafficking circles. Do you guys understand that I'm talking to the listeners, how these sex trafficking circles link into geopolitics? Why do you think Kosovo was even created to be a NATO base and a human trafficking hub? Why do you think they're so interested in keeping the Eastern Bloc destabilized and poor, to continue to traffic humans in and out of it? Why do you think they let evangelical NGOs run amok in Israel and Ukraine, transporting children in and out of Gaza and Western Ukraine as refugees, or they need to be saved? Because they're trafficking them. All of these things become intertwined together.
And this is what one of the Epstein survivors was mentioning as well. Epstein survivor addresses the elephant in the room. Why was Maxwell the only one held accountable? When others played a role, why does the government hide this information from the public? When you dive into like how expansive and intricate the Epstein crime syndicate was, and all the powerful people who knew about it, like Bill Clinton, one of the guests outlined how Bill Clinton was on the plane ride that she was a part of.
I mean, the guy had a plane called the Lolita Express. They were literally throwing it in people's faces, and now we're saying it's a hoax? You don't name your plane the Lolita friggin' Express unless you're banging teenage girls on it. Like, what are we talking about? Like, this is such gaslighting to the max. I just can't. I can't. And these poor women have to go and put themselves out front and center like this because nobody will do the right effing thing in this country, in this administration.
It's crazy. Here's Donald Trump, who couldn't be more fucking guilty, who once again doubles down on the idea that this is a hoax. And Trump has been doing everything he could, as Mike Johnson ended Congress early to prevent what we're seeing today, with all the Epstein victims coming out and speaking, with this story being resurfaced. Mike Johnson did that to prevent the story from coming out, and now Trump is cornered again after coming up with all these culture war bullshit issues that he's been promoting over the last few weeks. They gave order to all these MAGA propagandists to highlight and spread Arab hatred to distract from this story. They've been doing everything they can to distract from the story, and now they're forced to confront it, and they are exposed as a MAGA exposed as a pedophile protection movement.
Survivors of Jeffrey Epstein speaking at a press conference on Capitol Hill. They're calling for these case files, these documents to be released. And Thomas Massie, who was sponsoring a discharge position to get the House to vote on releasing those documents, says he doesn't believe you're implicated in these files, but many of your friends and donors may be. And he says that's why the Justice Department is redacting them and slow walking the release. Is the Justice Department protecting any friends or donors, sir?
So this is a Democrat hoax that never ends. You know, it reminds me a little of the Kennedy situation. We gave him everything over and over again, more and more and more, and nobody's ever satisfied. From what I understand, I could check, but from what I understand, thousands of pages of documents have been given. But it's really a Democrat hoax because they're trying to get people to talk about something that's totally irrelevant to the success that we've had as a nation since I've been president.
I'm more offended at the low effort.
Is it a hoax or is it irrelevant?
Right.
I'm offended at the low effort. Like he knows his supporters are tribalist, cultists. So he's like, if I just say the word Democrat, they will turn their brain off and assume it's a hoax. But go ahead, Eddie. I know you want to chime in.
No, it is so low effort. And it's like, you guys campaigned on this. You had people like Dan Bongino who built their careers up by being these Epstein crusaders, telling people we have to get Trump elected so he'll release the files, either the JFK files or the Epstein files. And then he doesn't, and it becomes a Democrat hoax. You're the one who promised us these files. You're the one who got into office by promising to release them. That's a huge reason people voted for you. And now, if you look at his support with independents, it's down from like 57% to 9%. Yeah. If you look at his support with young people, it's tanking. So thankfully, that's the one silver lining to this story, is that a lot of MAGA people are turning on him. But then you have that like cult-like section of his base that will eat that shit up and be like, yeah, Democrats made this up. Like, guys, no.
That's the Charlie Kirk like wing of the Republican Party, where Charlie Kirk literally came out with videos like, man, I know you should talk about this a lot, but I think we should need to move on. Like these like the what's her name? I don't know her fucking name. The Lives, a TikTok lady who had the Epstein files, knows that she's not covering the story at all. The people are so shameless, and it's to the point where the Trump administration sent out a memo explaining how anyone who supported Thomas Massie's resolution to release the Epstein file will be viewed as a very hostile act against the Trump administration. So you have Trump putting pressure on all these Republicans to not release the Epstein files. And why would you possibly do this if you're innocent? Now, this is the part of the story where no one in corporate media would touch, because I'm going to say something that you guys may disagree with, right? I'm saying this based on what I'm hearing from the accusers, people around Epstein. There's a very good chance, and I'm leaning more towards this, that they have nothing on Donald Trump. Like, there's no evidence that Donald Trump actually engaged in this. And I'm saying this because this is what the Epstein survivors say. So the question that you should ask yourself as I play this clip is, why is Donald Trump fighting so hard to prevent the release of the Epstein files, even at the cost of his own reputation. There are people calling him a pedophile and a rapist when there's a good chance he probably didn't do anything.
I do have to ask, and I know, and it's just something that I think we're compelled to at this moment, with the attention on President Trump, with these questions around a pardon. Did anybody see or hear of the president himself doing anything inappropriate as it related to Jeffrey Epstein?
No.
They said no. Now, we heard this multiple times. Now, let's just get to the angle where the corporate media is not touching. If he didn't do anything wrong on the list, that means he's fighting against the release of the list to protect who? To protect what? Because as Whitney Webb and as many other people reported, Jeffrey Epstein worked as essentially an agent of the Mossad, and how they had a Zionist blackmailing ring. So this is my proposal. And I understand why people may put back, there's a lot of people who think that Trump is a rapist pedophile. I think it's a little bit more complicated than this. I think Trump isn't implicated as a sexual deviant in the Epstein files, but he is so tied to the Zionist lobby. He is such a diehard Zionist. He is willing to have reputational harm in order to protect and shield the complicity that Zionists have, and how Israel was complicit with this blackmail scheme, how the Mossad was complicit with this sex trafficking operation. That is just a tip of the iceberg. Like, can you guys imagine the full scale of what the Mossad and what these people are actually engaged in that is not covered up? Now, if you guys disagree with that theory, that's fine. But I don't think Trump is personally, just based on what I've seen, done anything criminal. But he is engaged in a cover-up to protect Israel, which is just as damning. Because what is worth taking your political prospects this much? Like, you had the entirety of the MAGA base. You are beclowning yourself. Can you imagine how the evil shit our ruling class did that Trump is willing to sacrifice this much? He's even willing to be called a pedophile, because there are many people who have a different conclusion that I do. There are many people that think that Trump is a rapist. He actually did engage in this stuff. I think he's just part of the cover-up, and he understands how important it is for U.S. national security for him to cover up the U.S. government and the Israeli government complicity in this story. But anyway, Eddie, I'll give you your last thoughts on this. Sarah, any thoughts on the Epstein? There's going to be a lot to cover on this. We're getting pretty long into the night, though. I gotta
get caught up with the victims' testimonies. Apparently, they said they're gonna make their own list. I don't know who. I gotta go look on Truth Social and whatnot. I know Gusano in Chief is freaking out, saying we're gonna bomb every boat that comes from Venezuela. He's been in Mexico all day. But yeah, they're probably crashing out over this. Most of MAGA is saying they're not going to let this go until it's done.
Yeah, you have people like Kim Iverson that said they're going to vote for Democrats now.
Isn't it so
That's how bad it is.
We even need to have this political discourse in our country while other countries are engaging in the SCO and ushering in multipolarity. And we're like, when is our country going to release this list of pedophiles that have been running amok for the last 4 decades? It's batshit, and you wonder why we have no progress, why we have nothing, why a bunch of sick elites run this country, and now they're just making like 15-minute cities in Gaza where people are going to make batteries for Tesla. Like, this is so dystopian and grotesque.
It is dystopian. It's the contradictions of our society really, really coming to a head. While you have another country or other countries who have overcome those contradictions and now have a superior mode of production. So they're able to run their country rationally, while our country is run for literal pedophilic elites. And Trump always shows class solidarity with them in the end. Despite all his posturing and bluster.
He feigns his populism and all of that bullcrap, but he only has solidarity with one group of people. And the Wombat brings up something very important. Now, I'll put on my tinfoil hat, but I don't even think Epstein is dead. But regardless, if he is, his tentacles are still in everything. They're in Carbine. They're in Palantir. They're in Gideon. They're in Paragon. They're in everything. They are in In-Q-Tel. His money and tentacles are in everything still. He is the one who propped up Peter Thiel, who is our new overlord. So he gave him the initial investment along with the CIA. Don't let anybody forget it. Why do you think our government's protecting it? Because they were in business with Epstein the whole time through their private front shell companies. It's so sick. And like,
that's why my theory is that Trump is in the files. We know he's in the files, but he's not. I don't think he's criminally implicated. But the network that will be exposed, if this was fully redacted, if the truth fully came out, is such a threat to the U.S. national security apparatus, to the pedophile elite, that is worth tanking the Republican Party. The same way that the genocide in Gaza was so important for the Democrats that they rather lose to Trump in order to carry it out. That's the calculation that Trump imagines making, that, hey, man, protecting the pedophile elite is way more important than protecting the Republican Party. We just let Pete Buttigieg win. We had the Democrats fuck up again, have Gavin Newsom fuck up again, and we'd be back in 2032. That's their calculation. Let's give a few super chats and we begin to wrap up. This was a banger 2-hour stream. We had Eddie crash. We need to do this more often. This was a great panel. We always gotta have Sarah for our friend DDG on. We had Eddie and Midwestern March last week. Make sure you gotta check out that panel. I love the principled network that we are building of anti-imperialists.
Actual anti-imperialists, not these people who are like, we're gonna decolonize Delaware, and you're like, land back.
Sarah never changed my friend. This is why we love having Sarah on as well. Let me read super chats. Thanks for $5. Wombat Epstein network spreads to many of the highest names in differing industries, domestic and global. I saw someone, I don't remember who said it, that explained how Trump has to keep the Epstein list concealed or it will tank global markets. I'm like, damn, that's bleak. There are people predicting economic, like it will be such a devastating expose of our capitalist system. It would tank the fucking market.
Literally why we want it. Give me the files. I literally want to use them to crush capitalism. Like, I don't understand. That's why I want the files. Somebody said to me, if you were smart and you realized how much that it's not even about the victims, it's about the blackmail, then you would understand why they can't be released. I'm like, that's literally why I want them released. Like, I want them released for the blackmail.
Hopefully they get like Thomas Massey, Ro Khanna, they going hard on this issue. The American people, they are way more interested in the story than I thought they would be. But hey, I guess it makes sense. Like we have a global conspiracy theory, a sex trafficking ring of the ruling elites. Americans are born for this shit. Like they fucked up. This genie's out of the bottle. It's not going back. This is a super chat for Eddie. I started getting confused as CMC.
That's just the formula for exchange. So commodity, money, commodity. You have a commodity, you sell it for money. So you get the money that you don't have the commodity, and then you can use the money that you have to buy back another commodity. And then Marx will expand that formula to show how capital accumulates and concentrates itself at the top and how surplus value is extracted in production.
Okay, if you're retarded like me and not autistic like Eddie, there's a really great podcast that I used to read along with Das Kapital, which was Marx Madness. It got me through it, so you can always use that. But I also followed Eddie's journey through Das Kapital, and I will promise you guys it's a slog. So find a partner or something to help you get through it. But it's so important to understanding labor theory and everything. So
for sure.
Well said. Thank you for $5. I'm not fucking leaving. Real patriots find solutions to structural problems. If a house has a flawed electrical wiring, are you going to leave? Hell no. Very well said. Thank you for the super chat. Here's another one. The propaganda against China is so bad that dumb Western leftists will blame China for the destruction of Africa and even the genocide in Gaza. You guys said we have a pretty much a hardline stance against that. I'll talk about my fallout against Dr. Cornel West, but that's another reason why I had a fallout with Bush Ware as well. Like we good now, like we made up for it, but Bush Ware, he was spreading that Uyghur genocide bullshit. I'm like, bro, you out of your fucking mind, bro. Like,
now we never can deal with that again. There's no more Radio Free. We're done. And no more Uyghur radio or whatever it was.
I'm like, bro, what is up? I'm like, bro, I'm not trying to be fucking rude to y'all, but why the fuck do you academics keep falling for this shit? Like, you guys see how every leftist academic was falling for the Uyghur genocide. Easily disprovable. You want to know how easy it is to disprove the Uyghur genocide? All you got to do is talk to a Uyghur in China. Even they, whenever I've seen clips of them being confronted with the genocide, they're like, bro, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? Other than the ones who was paid by Radio Free Asia and Western organizations, like even they would like, we don't have any idea what you guys are talking about. Like, we may not be in love with our government, but that doesn't mean genocide. But there are academic leftists, so they will still say this shit to this day. Like, there's nothing you can show them. Then I did a whole segment when, like, it wasn't a roast of Butch Ware. I'm like, bro, I'm gonna do a segment explaining why what you're saying is absurd. You know what I mean? And it just bounces right off of them. I will never understand. I guess that's what you gotta do to be accepted in elite academia. But I would never understand why people just accept. Like, these are people who still believe that something happened in Tiananmen Square. Like, they just believe bullshit. And it's when you're not part of academia and you don't want to be part of that club, it's crazy that they repeat this stuff to me. You know what I mean?
A lot of it's social pressure. You know, their class consciousness, the people around them are pressuring on this. And then a lot of them don't have a real materialist analysis. Everything's based in like individual morality. So they hear something bad is going on, like genocide. And even if it's being pushed by the CIA and there's no evidence for it, they're like, well, I need to be against genocide. Otherwise, I'll be accused of being a genocide supporter and I won't be able to virtue signal, you know, as the most virtuous. I don't know if that's Butch Ware, but that's a lot of academics. And Butch Ware also blocked me on Twitter for respectfully calling him out on that position. So, Butch, if you want to talk about it sometime, hit me up. No hard feelings.
That's another thing. They don't like criticism. I learned that the hard way. Like, they always say, like, man, I wish you hold me accountable. That was Dr. Cornwell said, hold me accountable. Then the second we called him out for election Nevada, he canceled it. They don't like that at all. Anyway, let's move on. To heck with gun control, we need armed self-defense like the Panthers in the 1960s.
I'm against gun control, but I'm also against most Americans having guns. So that's where I'm at. But I love guns. I just don't think that most Americans should have them.
Yeah, I'm the exact opposite. Why I don't even like guns, because I hate that it evens the playing field between us. If it was for guns, bro, it wasn't for the old days. I wouldn't have to worry about any of you motherfuckers.
Guns are a psyop anyway. You think that they're gonna fucking kill you with guns if they have to? No. They're like, what are you talking about? They're gonna shut off your fucking phone and take everything. Like, what do you mean? They're not. What do you think? You're gonna shoot an AK at the fucking government? Like, and that's gonna say you're gonna shoot a 9 at Palantir? Like, I don't understand. Alex Karp says he wants to drop fentanyl-laced urine on us. You think that we're gonna be able to stop that? I quit.
I hate that some pencil neck fuck who can't even bench 135 can take me out because he got a goddamn gun. That shit annoys me.
Exactly.
Well, I understand the principle. Why, like, we can't have a disarmed proletariat. I 100% support that. But I told you guys, man, I hate the fuck that the gun. I hate the guns even the playing field between us. Anyway, thanks for $5, Perry. Trump is getting ready to invade Chicago. I wonder what you believe are the possible scenarios for popular resistance.
I saw that.
If you think, I'll say, go ahead, Eddie. I don't know if you guys.
I was just gonna say, Haas called that like a month ago. He said Trump is probably gonna invade Chicago.
Of course, there's a huge Palestinian population there.
Mm-hmm. We'll see. I don't know what
protest culture in Chicago.
Right, there will be a lot of resistance. I don't know how it'll go. It'll probably be protests and then tear gas as usual. But
yeah, isn't it great that Democrats are having a meltdown over Donald Trump doing this stuff after they increased Donald Trump's executive powers? Like, you got to realize that the bill that they passed, expanding the Capitol Police and giving them spying powers, they gave the president more authority to deploy National Guard, Capitol Police. That was part of the bill that Ilhan Omar and the progressives voted for because they had January. These are things I cover, like Hassan Piker. They didn't touch it. Sam Cedar, all the people who worship these progressives, they didn't cover it. But I'm like, hey guys, do you see what these motherfuckers just voted for? They just voted to expand executive authority in the way we've never seen before, where they can just break up whatever protest they want because that's what they use. They use January 6th as the fear mechanism. That's what they always do to grab power. They use fear mechanism. They trick you. They want you to be afraid.
Happened with the school shooting immediately following. We need apps to do predictive crime. I have an app. I'm an Israeli. Trust me. My app's name is Gideon. It's there for you. It will prevent these sorts of things happening. You're in danger. This is for national security. That's exactly what they're doing. And then the MAGA will cry in 4 or 6 years when the Democrats use it on them, and we'll be right back where we were with the Patriot Act. It's like it never fucking ends here. It never fucking ends. And it takes us right back full circle to us talking about how Americans are not backward looking people, in the sense that it makes them ignorant and it fills them with hubris. They're very arrogant. So
they're the worst. They complain about how government cracked down on protests. Remember the trucker protests when Biden was in charge? And then Trump get in charge and they cheered the same shit on for Gaza protests. Like, you guys see how the duopoly thing breaks your brain? Destroy, like, if you're a complete waste of our time. Now not only you're a waste of our space, you help the ruling class. Every one of these Democrats you see protesting in Chicago, you help the ruling class because you want to know who's working with Trump? The mayor of Chicago. She just bragged about, hey, yeah, I'm all down for this. You want to know who built the cop cities that Republicans and Trump are taking advantage of now? The Democratic Party. You guys voted to expand his authority like this, and then you're surprised, oh my God, I can't believe Trump is using authorities that we granted him. Yeah, Democrats. Anyway, let one more super chat. We 2 hours in. This was a very enjoyable stream for sure. Thank you for $5, Joseph. I might miss the live, so for $5. Hope you guys.
We got another super chat. Michael Tracy. Literally,
here it is.
Yeah. And he did. He came out and he said, yes, he came out because I was in the face with him. He came out about the Israeli guy that got sent back. He was like, this is a waste of resources. And we were like, what, should we just let pedophiles commit the crime first instead of like trying to prevent? It was just a bonkers comment. Like, he does not.
It's a waste of resources to catch.
And he was talking about like legal ones, not. I could see if you were talking about, the podcasters who do them for engagement. A lot of times they do more harm than good. No, he was talking about like law enforcement. It was bizarre.
There's very few things that the government gets right. One of the few things they get right is going after pedophiles. I think most people can agree with that. Like there's a lot of things that, like, because one of my criticisms is that they spend too much time cracking down the working class and creating crime themselves. Like FBI, they create terrorism. They actually don't solve a lot of crime. They create it. But when you catch them pedophiles, that is the most just fucking thing. Like, what do you mean you wasting resources? That's why I'm like, like his argument was wasting resources. That's one of the things I want to spend fucking resources on. Like, if I'm gonna be fucking real, catch the fugging pedophiles. So that's crazy. I can't believe these even.
They're all working to normalize pedophilia on X. Like, go have a look around X. It's like femboys here, like waifus here. It's fucking sick. And people are.
It's all people with anime profile pictures, bro. Yep. I'm like, bro, just because.
Or the Bappists. Don't think I don't notice that you guys are trying to normalize pedophilia.
Like, hey, anime guys, you did find a loophole, okay? Like, they think they found a loophole. Like, if we draw a child that we attract, no, you're still a fucking pedophile, okay? And I told you, I said it many times before. I don't care if people get mad at me. Like, whenever I see anime profile pictures on Twitter, I don't read what they tweet. Like, I don't pay attention to anyone unless they got a real picture of themselves, they doing something. But if you got anime profile picture, that's like the number one thing. Especially they're like the people that they got pictures of children. They're like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? But anyway, that's like Michael Tracy. These people normalizing this stuff. I don't get it, man. I don't get it. Thank you, Piano Man. I think we're done. We finished 2 hours. And Eddie, anything you want to shout out? And then we go Sarah next. Any final thoughts? Thank you guys for joining me tonight. It was a fun stream.
Thanks for letting me crash. This was fun. Thanks for all the work you guys do. You can follow me at Midwestern Marks. Appreciate it. ACP.
Yeah, anytime. I know we definitely gonna do this again in another 2 weeks, Sarah. So make sure you guys definitely tune in for that. Sarah, anything you got coming up? I know you've been
tomorrow with Jamarl. Saturday night with Jamarl, and then Sunday the new show with Chris. I am so excited for this live streaming with Chris on Saturday with our new show. Very excited from Moscow and Seattle.
New show. That's gonna be a banger. That's gonna be a banger. I can't wait to guest on that one day. That's gonna be a good show. Make sure you guys check out.
Guesting on it.
Yeah, you already know. You already
Eddie,
know.
of course. All the kids.
Make sure you gotta check out our friends Eddie at Midwestern Mars. Make sure you gotta check out Sarah at DDG. That's our main focus. I'm trying to build a true anti-imperialism. I was about to say left, but I don't even like that term because it's been so muddy. But a true anti-imperialist movement, so a movement that's dead ass serious. And I want people to get involved. Like, find people who are like-minded, get involved in a local organization. If you are too busy, become a class trader, donate to mutual aid, but get involved, build relationships, build friendships. We got Zoya's love. Zoya's love. Zoya's life. What's popping?
We need a Zoya. Me and Chris need a Zoya.
Zoya, bro. Without Zoya, what would I be? I would be nothing.
Yeah,
Zoya, what's popping? I'll be fucked without Zoya.
I'm managing without a Zoya. You'd be done.
I'll be screwed. Zoya, what's popping?
You guys are too kind. I'm just joining in really quick to announce the poll, which was, can US beat China? 89% said no, and 10% are still propagandized, and we got our work cut out for us.
Yep, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna
10% can go to the camps.
I endorse that. Thank you guys for watching. Have a good night, my friends.
Bye.